All right. So again, today we're going over a really high level overview of just budgeting, right? So 5 points that we want to hit, and I'll just go over them really quickly, and then you can start with one, okay? So number one, we're going to talk about your mindset. That is the first and foremost step before we can even talk about what budgeting looks like and what it means. Number two, there are some preliminary steps, right, that have to take place before you actually put a budget in place. And we'll talk about why. Why are these steps necessary? Number three is creating a budget, right? And so we'll share some resources here in the section. 4 is to make a plan, and then 5 is to execute the plan. So let's start with 1, mindset.
So, mindset. It's not a coincidence that this is number 1, because this is the most important thing out the gate. This is your foundation, because you can have the income, you can have your accounts in order, you can have the expenses in order, you can have everything on the paper, you can have all of this, your why, kids, all that. But if you don't have the foundation, if you don't have the right mindset, I can guarantee your budget is gonna fail. Okay, because like, same thing. Jesus in Luke tells his disciples, count the cost. And, you know, some people preach it from like a material standpoint, but what he's really saying is, before you, to be my disciple, before you even do anything, count the cost, because you got to make a decision. Now, the world paints it one way, but what has God said about it, and what's that way look like? And you're gonna, again, deny yourself. You gotta have to make up your mind early on, because there's gonna be, it's gonna be uncomfortable. There's gonna be things that's gonna come up, and you have to make the decision right now. I can't do that, or you know, you're gonna have to deny. And like I said, along this path, there's gonna be others that you may lose. Again, talking about finances, but talking about everything too. Again, you may lose family, you may lose parents, you may lose relationships, you may lose you know, a lot of things, because again, that's what this path is called to, and not everybody is gonna be on board. And that's where you gotta have that mindset and make the decision right now. And that's why it's the most important. So yeah, Jesus get it, and we have to make a decision. And after you have made that decision, now we can get to the why. Because like once you made the decision, and now we get to the why. And again, like we just talked about, like the world will push you want to get rich, you want to have X amount, you want to, you know, culture, trendy things, whatever. But the true why is because God said to. Like the world push one thing, rich, all of that. But what has God called us to? God has called us to not be a slave to debt. And I want you to be free.
To not be borrowers, yep.
And I want you to be free so that you can spread the gospel. So again, that's a decision you have to make, and that's your why. Because again, there's gonna be days you're not gonna feel like doing it. You know, like there's gonna be times that's come up, you're not gonna feel like doing it. And your why, again, the world will point I wanna be rich because of your kids, because of family, do it, but that's not sustainable. When your why is because God told me to, and now that's his will for your life, and like you just said, now that's the desire in your heart, and now that will is lined up, he's gonna give you the strength through the Spirit to fulfill, to follow out that discipline, to follow out that will, so, or to follow out that will for your life of, okay, I see you're doing this because I'm instructing you to, let me help you. Because now, after you do that, when your focus is on him, everything else is taken care of. So, again, that's where you got to make a decision. Once you have made the decision, now your why lines up with the will of God, and your aim stays there. That is going to help you on those days that you don't feel like it. That's going to help you on those times where, you know, somebody may want you to do something, and you like, now you want to make a decision. It's like, make up your mind now, because those times are coming. But if you make up your mind on the front end, no, I can't do that. That's not in the budget. And knowing that your purpose is because this is what God want me to do. And God is going to, along the way, give you the wisdom, give you the strength to carry on. Because again, the other things why the world would say, so you can be a millionaire, so you can be rich, so you can be whatever, that's not gonna make it. It's gonna fade. Like the Bible said, that's gonna fade. But when your why is because God told me to, and again that will lines up, you're gonna have the strength to go on. It's gonna sustain. And again, when that time comes up, that war that goes on between your flesh and your spirit, that's what you're gonna need when that war comes up.
Yeah. And I think we started with mindset because if your mind isn't made up, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not.
If you're going into, okay, I'm going to do this budgeting thing, I'm going to be responsible with my money, disciplined with my money, and you're truly 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I'm telling you now, don't bother. It's not going to work.
You'll start for 2 weeks and then let's get back again because it got uncomfortable. Let's resort back to the things that forget about. That's too tough.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before it doesn't work. So one, make up your mind. And if you're not there, don't even bother, right? Like, don't even bother. Spend time in God's word to get to a place where, all right, I think my mind is made up, right? Don't be double-minded. And the Bible's clear also about that. But again, applying it to finances. Now, the second thing is preliminary steps, right? So like, what are the things that we need to do before we actually put a budget together, and why do we need to do these things? So I'm just going to tell you what I have here. I have track how much is spent on what, every single expense that is hitting your bank account. Why? Because the average consumer, including me and including you, prior to us actually putting this into practice, does not truly know how much they spend and on what. I don't care what kind of mathematician you might be in your head. I am telling you right now that if you do not have a budget as we speak today, if you don't have those figures down, and if it does not account for every single thing that you swipe your card for or that you pay for with cash, you have no idea what anything costs and how much you truly spend on X thing, right? This is the uncovering phase, right? Where it's like, okay, I've never actually done this before, right? I might spend $600 a month on food, combining groceries and eating out. Track it and see how close or far you were, right? The other thing is you're gonna have to dig up, and then you can add comments at the end if you'd like to too. So dig up necessary information. You need the full picture, right? And so this is something that we have learned, and I mentioned this earlier. I think this is where a lot of people drop off, right? So some of our paperwork, some of our clients, our partners, after, they're so excited. And I think part of it is because it sounds good, right? We're like, look, these are some of the success stories that we've had with other people. Here's what we were able to do when we truly started being disciplined, and it all sounds good. But the first thing I always say, right, is make sure your mind is made up, because if it's not, you are not going to put this work into it. And I can't put the discipline in for you. I can tell you how great it would be. I can tell you that the other end is always going to be worth it, but you have to be the one to wake up every single day and be willing to stick to what you're about to do, right? So what kind of information do we need to dig up that I think most people don't actually have prior to doing a budget? You need every single kind of total balance you can think of, right? So for example, most people, when you talk to them from a car payment perspective, they know what their car payment is, but how much do you have left and what is your interest rate? Oh, I don't know. Let me go find some paperwork. It matters, right? And I'm not saying these are things that we should all just boom, boom, know right off the top of our head, but I'm saying that it requires digging up all of this information so that you can properly do a budget. I did say interest amount. So that's huge, because there are so many loans, there are so many just payment plans that do have interest, and we don't actually know what's hitting us the hardest, right? Like I might know, okay, out of the 5 credit cards, which that would be an issue to begin with, but if I had 5 credit cards and I have balances on them, even if they are small, right? And if I'm not paying it off before interest hits, which card is hitting you the hardest? Like, if you're not looking at that day in and day out, you don't know, right? And this comes into play later on, right? Like, why would I pay off Discover before I pay off Chase, even though it's a smaller amount? The interest rate. So it all goes together. Due dates. and we'll get more into this in a different episode, but we need to know the due dates, right? Not just around, but like what actual day do these things come out? I think when it comes to the bigger payments, people do have an idea of when these things are due, but I think through experience, what people don't always know are the smaller fees. Oh, well, my Apple Music, I'm not sure because it's so cheap, right? I don't know when that comes out. Oh, and my Netflix. Oh, and my Spotify and my Google Music and all of these things. And again, it all matters. So you will have to spend time digging up the total balances, the interest amounts, the due dates. And then the other thing that we ask is like, what is past due? And if something is past due, right? Because that also helps with prioritizing what's going to be paid and in what order. But again, guys, this is truly, in my opinion, and I want to actually hear your opinion. In my opinion, this is where people drop off. When we send the paperwork, it's all good. It's all good, right? Like those initial conversations with people, when they're like, yeah, like I'm tired of living this way. I don't want to be a slave to my money. It sounds good that, yeah, maybe I do actually have an extra $2,000 a month that I could put into savings, right? But when you send that paperwork and it's asking for all of these details, people are like, oh no. No. Why do you need all of that? And two, I don't even know, right? Not only that, I just don't want to spend the time to look at all of this information and put it down for you.
That's the thing.
Right? Like,
that's the thing. And
so this is why, going back to your mindset, if your mind is not made up when it requires this much labor, you're going to bounce. You're going to bounce. What do you think about that? In terms of people, like, how many times has that happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Because like you said, when it turns back to, okay, it's going to require a little bit more. Because we can't do that.
Yeah,
it's going to require you to, it's going to require logins. It might call you, some people had to call and be like, yeah, I don't know, but I can call. And it's like to properly do the budget and for us to fully get everything. Like you said, all of that matters. And if you don't get all of those things, your budget is probably gonna fail because again, you're gonna either not account for something or you might pay something off in the wrong order. And people, without all the information, you try to do a budget, people still drown and they don't know it.
You can have a budget and still be drowning. 1,000%.
People still drown and don't know it. So again, that's why it's like all of this, you, as the person that's giving it, you might be like, why do they need all this? But actually doing it, and then once we get it and we break it down for the people that we have broken down to, and they like, that makes sense. So it's like, that's why we, and then it turns into, what else you need?
Yeah.
Like you just helped me save how much? What
Yeah.
What else? I did it the next day. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, and
and we have some people like that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, not to drag it on, but yeah, I agree, and that's why.
Yeah. All right. So that was creating a budget, and then 4, make a plan.
You did 2.
I did 2.
3.
Okay, 3. Creating a budget.
Creating a budget. So this is where you put everything down on paper. So this is how much money you make, not just including what you make on your job. So if you're getting alimony, if you're getting child support, if you got a side job, if you're getting any sort of income, you need to have it all down, even to the expense side. Everything from loans, credit cards, hair,
nails, eyebrows, yes.
waxes, Starbucks, donuts, whatever your coffee. No, I'm saying, but literally, subscriptions, like you said, if it's $1, well, it doesn't matter, 99 cents, put it all down. Because again, this is where God made us managers from the beginning. And when he told Adam to name everything, Adam had to name every single thing. So this is what we're founding on. You're doing the exact same thing. You're putting every single thing down, because when your check comes in, you need to assign it or assign the amount, and so you know where everything is going. Take everything for account. And there's 2 things that we want you to add to this when creating a budget. You're gonna break out a personal allowance, and you're gonna break out savings. Those 2 things are not optional, because I know some people create a budget and they'll do no, you gotta eat peanut butter and jelly for the next 3-4 years. You can't eat at restaurants. your budget also got to be realistic. Otherwise, it'll fail because your budget shouldn't feel like a prison. You shouldn't be miserable in doing the budget. So that's why you're gonna have a personal allowance. But that personal allowance, if you are eating or drinking Starbucks, you in your personal allowance, you still shouldn't be able to go to Starbucks every day. That should crack down to once, maybe twice a week. So that personal allowance is supposed to be an amount set on it that also supposed to stretch you. And again, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's supposed to challenge you because now you're taking control of that unnecessary spending, and you're putting a category on it and saying you only have X amount to spend on unnecessary or extra things like that. And this is gonna help you budget. And on the flip side, the same thing with savings. Even if right now you can only put $5 to savings, that is absolutely fine. Start with that $5 because again, with this step, what we're doing,
building muscle.
You are breaking a habit and starting new habits, and it's gonna take you a while to break that habit, but you're building that muscle and just now getting into the routine of every time something come in, every 2 weeks, every week, every 2 weeks, every month, whenever you get paid, every time that check come in, you know what is going out to which account, what's going to personal allowance, and what's going to savings. Because what you're doing here, we are doing a lifestyle change. And that's what, don't get frustrated. Like I said, if it's only $5, you might not even be putting anything to savings right now. Again, it's fine because you are doing a lifestyle change and it's gonna take time to break those habits and create new ones, and just trust the process that savings will increase. Even like I said with the personal allowance, it's gonna challenge you, and you might, like whatever amount you set, you might not hit it in the first few times, but over time you're gonna get used to, only drinking Starbucks once a week. I can do that. Or whatever it is. Again, you're gonna now build that muscle, and it's gonna be a lifestyle change. And yeah, that's what we do. And again, that's what God has called us to. Put everything. You're a manager, and you are managing every single thing, and include those two things.
Yep. Your response kind of bled into the next one, which is perfect. So make a plan, right? So we talked about really putting everything down, like you're saying, assigning every dollar basically, right? But once you do that, what that does allow you to do is to put a plan in place, right? If you realize that, oh wait, I have like 7 subscriptions and they all do the same thing. Maybe I can have Starbucks twice, right? Now let me cut some of these subscriptions out. Which ones are my favorite? Which ones can I really, if we're being honest, you can afford to cut all of them off. That's being very honest. But
we don't want you to be in prison.
Yeah, we're not saying So I'm saying if you have 7 subscriptions that are all television related, pick your favorite one. Yep. Cancel those 6, right? And now look, you
just freed up $40 right there.
Now you can have Starbucks twice a week, right? And guess what? Now you have money to put into a savings. So it's not, I just want to point out that I think a lot of times the way that people do personal allowance and savings is, let me put all of my bills down. That's the total. What's left over? Okay, I have this amount left after my bills are, paid. I have this chunk of money left until the next time I get paid. That is not a budget, right? Every dollar should be assigned, which means
every dollar.
Just like you pay your bills, your personal allowance has a cap. It has a limit. It means that, just again, sharing a little bit of our story, when we first started doing this, however many years ago, my first budget was $75 every 2 weeks, right? Or was it every week? What was it? $75.
Wasn't it 70 a week? It wasn't.
Okay, I think it was 70 a week. You're right, because it was like 150 every 2. Okay,
75 2 weeks.
So I was,
you ain't doing that.
So I was getting paid bi-weekly at that time. And so my budget, or my personal allowance, was $70 a week. Now this is back when we were still in the office working, and my complex, like where my job was at this time, had a Starbucks in the development.
Panera.
And a Panera. And I wasn't disciplined.
Juice.
And I wasn't disciplined at all. So $70 a week. I feel like when people hear that, it's like, what? I can do that.
She thought she was gonna die.
70 is great. I'm telling you right now, if you have not counted, if you have not put this down, you're gonna be borderline about to die at 70. But my point is, now fast forward a couple years later, I might have one Starbucks drink a month, if that. I make my coffee at home, and it's just it really, like you said,
Lifestyle.
it changes. Yes,
Lifestyle
entire change. Because
Lifestyle change.
no, I'm not going to be in debt, and I'm not going to not have a savings for the sake of something that is so temporary. Another thing, and again, same thing back then, right? Oh, it was so difficult trying to figure out where I'm going to put in the money for like getting my nails done back then. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But all I'm saying is, if you don't have a savings and you are getting your nails done, and I'm saying this because again, like I went through that, right? There's a problem there, right? So find a creative way. I went and I ordered a $50 kit from Amazon, and I started doing my nails myself, right? So when I want to have my nails done, that's what I do. And I'm not saying, if you get to a point where you're not struggling to have a certain savings and all of that, I am not saying that you can't go and get your nails done. But there is a problem when you're telling me that you have mountains and mountains of debt, but you won't stop getting your nails done. And you have $0 in your savings account, but your nails are always done. Yeah. Priorities are not in order. And so that I want to make sure we're driving that point, and not saying that there's anything wrong with doing something nice for yourself. Mm-hmm. Do it in a disciplined way, and get to the point where, you know what, I really like getting my nails done, right? And let me hustle to implement this discipline and implement this savings, and so that I can always do that, and it doesn't impact anything else, right? It doesn't impact me having debt. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. So again, in decency and in order, right?
But that's where that sacrifice comes in too, because like you said, And the way that a budget is set up, because like you said, what you want to do with a budget is to get you on track. If you are in a hole, this is a plan to get you out of that hole, get you on track, and you might have to cut out, nails or subscriptions or whatever. But this is, again, a temporary thing, because you also shouldn't be on this strict budget for 10 years. Like this, most people that we design a budget for, you unpaid all your debt off between like 6 months and 3 years. Mm-hmm. And now after that, and again, you shouldn't then, after the 3 years and everything paid off, like, oh, I'm about to go run wild now. Mm-hmm. But because you still should have the discipline. But now you can open back up to, I can go to Starbucks 3 times now. Or now you, again, priority, you have the space, and you not straining yourself, or it's like, I'm doing this, but I'm not taking care of, like I said, prioritizing taking care of things. So just to add on to what you were saying.
Yeah, so just to circle back, basically, is also having a check breakdown. You should know exactly what is going to happen every time a paycheck hits.
Yep.
It's not, okay, pay my bills and then there's this leftover balance. No, whatever you have left over should also be assigned. A savings is not optional. Mm-hmm. Cut some things out to get the savings going. And then 2, your personal spending, the nice to haves, right? All the personal care stuff, the Starbucks drinks, all those things fall within what we call a personal allowance. And it has to have a cap. You cannot, I think that's the hardest part is, we're going back to the beginning, right? Denying yourself that not everything you want, you need. And so this process of getting to the place where it's like, all right, I'm going to do this budget and I'm going to stick to it. When you make your mind up, that's where like everything just changes from there. Mm-hmm. Everything just changes from there. And it, like you said, it is truly a lifestyle change that says, oh, denying myself is nothing. No, I don't need to go out to eat every single day. Like, I'm going to sit at home and I'm going to meal prep, and I'm going to, like, it pours into everything else. And we'll share in a different podcast, just like how truly I feel like it truly does, like, and we can share, specifics. But number 5 is execute, which is really just stick to the plan. And I don't even want to harp on this too much, because if which is that mindset, the very first thing, if the mindset is there, if you are tired of being a slave to your money and you're ready to tell your money what to do, executing won't be difficult. It won't, because you went through that mental war at the beginning and your mind is made up.
And I was just gonna say, like you said, mindset. There's a difference from like, I'm doing this for somebody else, or I'm doing this to reach a certain goal. And then when you say, I'm doing this for God. Just that in itself, again, Jesus was the ultimate servant. Jesus, I'm a servant. I was sent on a mission. I'm doing it for the Father. So the same thing, and he was the example we're supposed to take after him. So the same thing, we're servants. And when your why is because I want to do what God has called me to do. I want to fulfill, like I want to please God in that way. And again, he's gonna see you trying, and he's gonna give you the strength through the Spirit. And man, like it's, guys, again, like she said, the mindset. Once you do that, and when your why is because your will be done,